79 days now to Syracuse football, Syracuse, Tennessee, near where our next guest, I presume, is currently sitting right now as we bring on ACC Network's Wes Durham, as that game will be down in the ATL on August 30th, nooner against Tennessee. You got to be somewhere near there right now, Wes.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I'm back at home. Got back from a little two-day getaway to Boston, and glad to be back at home. And, about 30 minutes from here is where they'll kick it off against the Vols at high noon on a Saturday. The roof, I don't know if the roof will be open or closed, Brian. Got to figure that out. Got to get that information at Mercedes-Benz Stadium close to kickoff.
Okay, it is a sweet-looking stadium. Every time that one's on TV, Wes, it does look nice.
It's a great building for fans, by the way. Unbelievable fan building. People who come down will love the building.
Do the Falcons ultra cheap concession prices? Does that carry over to
Yes.
to college games too?
Yes.
Ooh. Yeah, the Falcons have like Arthur Blank's we will have the best concession prices in all of sports. Like you can actually get like a $2 hot dog or something like that without getting built.
Yeah, no, and it's across the board for the most part, and the prices are incredibly fan friendly compared to most venues, college, pro especially. The prices on concessions are remarkably fair, as they say.
And if I'm correct on this as well, Wes, there's a Chick-fil-A in this stadium. It's just never open during Falcons games because it can't open on Sunday.
It's never open on Sunday Falcon games. The Falcons play on Thursdays or Friday nights, like in a preseason game, things like that. Open, not on Sundays.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. You're there. You're up to date. It's like you've been here.
Okay. Wes, I'm about to give you some very exciting news, I imagine, for you as pertains to something that happened here in Syracuse yesterday for your next visit to the Dome. After 30 years, this is the first time in 30 years, Wes, the soft drink provider of the Syracuse University campus is changing from Pepsi to Coke, which I feel for you sitting in the home of Coca-Cola right now must be major news up our way.
Yep. We trade the Aquafina for the Dasani in the water category. We trade, I'm not a soda guy by nature, but I'm glad to hear that the Coke stock has done well on that acquisition.
Okay, yeah.
Is that a campus move or a dome move?
A campus move. It's been I don't think they've technically announced it yet, but there's sources and reporting and articles. It's all out there, Wes.
Oh, no.
But this is a well-sourced operation on Syracuse.com. There's orange and blue balloons in the local Coke facility, and there's photographs. There's a lot going on here. But yeah, this is from my understanding, Wes, this is a campus-wide contract. So that's not small beans. That's big stuff.
Is Waters involved in this kind of reporting from the Syracuse.com desk? Mike Waters involved in this? Or
I say water is involved. Your Dasani reporting is correct.
Yeah.
I believe it was a Chris Carlson article.
Okay.
I'm sure Mike was providing Hall of Fame help behind the scenes.
No question.
As he often does.
Check with Boeheim for a comment on it and move along. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So that's major. That's major news up our way that broke during the show yesterday. We spent Paulie is a dyed in the wool diet Pepsi guy. Wes,
he'll get over it. He'll get over it.
Well, if not, he'll just be in shambles. So it's one or the other the next time.
Brian, is he not in shambles anyway?
Well, yeah, that's his normal state. I'm worried to see him if he's not even up to shambles if it comes to that during the dome season.
Paulie better hold out for a better contract than to work with Parkey. How's that?
Yeah. Well, all right. Yeah, we'll see if I wouldn't hold my breath on that going.
Neither would I.
Going forward. So, all right, we've covered all the important business here in the sporting world going on, and man, what crazy times in college sports, right, Wes? What do you make of it? I don't even know where to begin anymore. Where every day I feel I'm talking to lawyers, I'm talking to business reporters. We're not talking a lot of sports anymore. What do you make of everything going on in the sporting world right now?
I think we need to pause and watch it play out, Brian. In all honesty, and then draw some further conversations after we see kind of how this goes, right? Look, I think folks have to understand there are a couple of barometers here, and you can get a lot of information, and what you're really looking for is you're looking for concrete things that people are willing to discuss and provide you some sort of baseline for this. So let's just take the House settlement for starters here, right? House settlement, $20.5 million. You're either in or you're out, okay? schools are announcing we're all in at 20.5. Others are not. I think, ultimately everybody has to get comfortable if they're not at 20.5, and those that are, are they going to add to the top of it, annually with something else outside that then has to be reviewed, things of that nature. The thing that I keep coming back to in this, Brian, especially for programs that are not what I call the common ground house programs, and those are the two basketballs and football, obviously, right? In the case of somebody like Syracuse, who's got successful programs in things other than football and basketball, lacrosse, for instance, what does this mean? Is there any kind of financial cut of the pie that's going to go to Gary Gates' program? Is there any kind of financial cut of the pie that will go to the new women's lacrosse coach at Syracuse, right? How does that work in the pie cutting that John Wildhack has to do? I think you see it with certain schools, for instance, where some coaches may or may not already know what their cut of the pie is going to be for a sport, and they have either A, retired, B, they've maybe taken another job. I'll give you the baseball move of Chris Pollard from Duke to Virginia. I don't know what Duke's percentage of the baseball pie is, the way the House settlement's going to be set up. But what I do know is that Virginia's got an established baseball program. Brian O'Connor left Virginia, won a national championship there, as we all know, as their baseball coach. Now he's going to Mississippi State in the SEC. Is Mississippi State's cut of the $20.5 million pie going to be bigger than Virginia's? Probably. And so, therefore, Brian O'Connor went to higher ground at an opportunity maybe for baseball success. And maybe the timing was just right to make the move. So I think we all have to sit back, and that's what I mean by we all kind of got to sit back and watch some of this unfold. And then we can make decisions based on what we see and what we hear and what schools are willing to share. And that's important too. Schools have to be fairly forthcoming about this. In the NFL, it's really easy. In the NBA, it's really easy. In baseball, it's easy. Hockey, whatever. They got a salary cap. They got a collective bargaining agreement. We know where the floor is and we know where the ceiling is, right? And now in the college game, we've been told that 20.5 is the school allotment. That's it. Now you can add to it. Is the school going to be willing to share how much they add? And is the school is not at 20.5, where are they? And being a state school, being a private school, there are going to be some differences there. I'm interested to see by the end of, say, football, if we know where the competitive balance is. Is that still a potential possibility in major college athletics? I happen to think it might be at 20.5. Although we got wild reports of schools paying $30 and maybe $40 million to football rosters. We haven't had anybody confirm that. Steve Sarkisian, in fact, I think denied a $40 million roster at Texas, even though that was something that was reported in late April and early May.
Yeah, he's probably keeping it to 39 now to make sure that stays street legal. Arch is getting that cash on the side or something, so maybe it doesn't.
He's going Cooper Flag on us.
Exactly. You mentioned, and it's when we don't have baseball up here at Syracuse, or we don't have college baseball. We have AAA, but so we're not in on Virginia. But every time I've been down there for lacrosse, there's always a baseball game. The stadiums are literally right next to each other.
Yep.
You can tell it's a big deal. You mentioned they won a natty recently. Things like that. To see, I've been to Charlottesville. I've been to Starkville.
Yeah.
To see somebody voluntarily go from Charlottesville to Starkville before you take in the external money factors and the chances of winning going forward is a bit like, that doesn't quite cut it. But that's kind of where we're at in college sports right now, where Mississippi State is sitting there, and they got all this monetary power right now that even Big Bad Virginia can't keep up with.
And, Brian, it's not just coaching. Jay Batt, the athletic director at Georgia Tech, left to go to Michigan State. I mean, is Michigan State a better job than Georgia Tech right now in athletic administration? Probably. I mean, I don't know the intricacies of Michigan State's situation, but Jay is a guy who felt like, he had raised, since coming to Georgia Tech, somewhere right around $80 million for physical plant and resources and, just all the stuff that goes on. And, and I don't blame him for the move. He did a great job in Atlanta, but we're basically identifying now Michigan State as a better job than Georgia Tech in that light. Is it a better job because it's in the Big Ten? Probably. And the money they're guaranteed? Sure, I can see all that. But we have to think about this in every way, shape, and form. Like, why are basketball players leaving schools and football players leaving schools to go to other schools? It's not because of the degree. It's because of the money.
Yeah. And it makes it simple to see the answer. I mean, hey, Syracuse went through the same thing as Georgia Tech before NIL and all this when Mark Coyle up and left from here to Minnesota, where he still is. So it's another ACC to Big Ten move over the years. And
I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it, to you? I mean, as somebody that knows Syracuse like you guys do, to see a guy leave Georgia Tech and go to Michigan State, and you say, well, wait a second. Well, every Big Ten school makes, I don't know exactly the percentage, but it's a significant increase over what the ACC school is going to make. And in reality, the Big Ten's making more than the SEC is right now in their television deal. So at the end of the day, you can't fault the guy for taking the job. They got more resources. They got more money. They've got all the things that, as far as we know, are, integers and equations to being successful now in college athletics.
Yeah, and then you look at the ACC and their spot in the landscape, right? And they basically don't have a seat at the table, and like how the college football playoff's going to look going forward. It's just how the SEC and the Big Ten feel like doing things. How strange is this for long time, like North Carolina and all these schools that have been around forever, and all those Big 12 schools that have been around forever with major athletics that. Like they're just at the whim of other schools of how this is going to work out for them.
Right, and I think the other thing about it is that we have seen, at least I think a couple of weeks ago, we saw the work of Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips, albeit maybe in a minority situation compared to the majority lean to the SEC and the Big Ten that we see in most of these discussions. I think we can tip a hat to Yormark and Jim Phillips and other people that were involved when they decided, if they're going to do this, they're going to go to, they're not going to go to this, massive 4-team automatic bid qualifier from the Big Ten and the SEC, right? They're going to be much more traditional, and they want to look at the ranking system. Now, I think part of the discussion when it got sideways, Brian, was when somebody, and I don't remember specifically who, and I apologize for that, when I heard that one of the things influencing the rankings in the expanded field of college football playoff was going to be somebody's television ratings. Well, if we're going to start down that path, then we need to go back to, ground zero and start all over again, like from the earth cooled to here's how we get man walking. Because if we're going to take television ratings and formulate that into some percentage of the college football playoff rankings, we got a problem. Because I honestly believe college football is going to be much more balanced than people think it is. And the SEC and the Big Ten, I think we're getting a lot of pushback from their constituency about, wait a second, if we're good enough, we ought to be good enough. And that's I think, where we need to go with this in college football. Yeah, look, a lot of teams are going to have maybe a bigger payroll, so to speak, in terms of their programs. But don't discount what SMU did last year. Don't discount what even Arizona State did last year in the Big 12. And yes, I'm intentionally not using a Big 10 or an SEC school here because I think those are examples of programs that are going to have chances every year the way the college football playoff expansion works, and especially when we get to 16. And yeah, there is a point of no return for the SEC and the Big 10. Just because you're Alabama doesn't mean you're going to go to the college football playoff over SMU if you have 3 losses. And one of them is a loss at Oklahoma, who was bad. You're going to suffer just like everybody else is. And that's what we need to see in college football. And I think it's really important that we kind of arrive at that point before we get to the 16. I think that was really, really important to see that kind of thing happen last year, not happen like the year before we expanded. To see it in its first year, I thought was critically important to the process.
Yeah, and then obviously, a Big Ten team won the title, but it was Ohio State. It was the 8th seed or whatever they were in the tournament.
Right.
So it shows you that. I think we all knew how good they were, but it shows you that it's not as cut and dried as just slap the top 4 and then and see what happens. Which leads me to the ACC this year. Clemson will be good. Clemson's always good. What's your sense of the league here, Wes, as we sit in mid-June right now?
I think you're right. I think we all have to start with Clemson. I think that's the fair thing to do. I look at Clemson's scenario and say, okay, so let's say that they win opening night against LSU, right? Mm-hmm. They beat LSU convincingly. That's not just a good win for Clemson. It's a great win for the ACC. because like Syracuse, Tennessee, we started off talking about, the ball game in Atlanta here. That's a kind of game that if Syracuse wins, that's not only great for Fran Brown, that's great for this league. Okay. And I think that's what we have to decide the first 3 weeks are going to be about, is how high are we going to be able to put the ACC flag on the pole nationally after about the first 3 weeks of the regular season. And I think a lot of teams, Syracuse, Carolina, certainly Clemson, Florida State, even somebody like NC State playing East Carolina on Thursday night in week 1. Georgia Tech playing at Colorado, Brian. Those are all those type games. And really what we're going to do is we're going to formulate our opinions about those schools based on those non-conference games before they start conference play in earnest. And I think outside of that, nobody really knows. We're going to see an AP poll. I saw like On3 yesterday release their ACC preseason projections, right? And they had Miami 1, ironically. Which I thought was interesting, especially given Carson Beck didn't throw a pass, with pads on in the spring, as I understand it. And I think Clemson's going to be really good. I don't know that they're going to be like Trevor Lawrence, fired up and ready to go good, but I think they're still going to be good. But I think behind Clemson, we're talking about, the Miami scenario, the potential of Louisville, the potential of Georgia Tech, people like that to kind of get in the mix behind Clemson. But who else is going to get there? Look, Fran did a terrific job a year ago at Syracuse. Is the turnover, can they succeed again with some of the roster turnover they've had? If they do, that is a great statement about where that program is. And I'm excited to see some of those guys maybe even take on bigger roles who come back for them. But I think the league is going to be pretty good. But I don't think everybody's going to stand on the mountain in August or mid-July and shout it. I think people are going to talk about the SEC and the Big Ten. And that's fine. Yeah. Because if you do the right thing in the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, then you're setting yourself up for a really good fall in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Yeah, as you said, that Clemson LSU game, as far as stakes for the league, is shockingly high in week 1.
And Florida State, Alabama is too, Brian. Florida State, Alabama is a massive game for both schools. It might be the most important game nationally in terms of what you think about Alabama on the Monday and what you think about Florida State on Monday.
Yeah, because I think after last season, we're all thinking a lot of things, especially about Florida State having their worst season
that's what I mean.
Decades.
Yeah, you think about those two guys and that game. Look, a lot of things are going to happen in the opening week, like Syracuse, Tennessee. That's a huge game for Syracuse. Tennessee's got expectations as well, even though, Iamaleava or whatever the kid's name is, left in the contract dispute at Knoxville. And that's what I'm calling it, a contract dispute.
That's what it was.
He took his unconditional release to Westwood for less money. But you look at Florida State and Alabama. How big is 60 minutes of that is for Mike Norvell, and how big is 60 minutes it is for Kalen DeBoer? It's just massive. It's a massive football game.
Yeah, I'd say if Florida State gets smacked, there's going to be panic in the streets of Tallahassee. If Alabama loses that game at all, there'll be panic in the streets of Tuscaloosa, and there is no mid ground of how that's going to go for that game. All right, Wes, before we let you go, Bill Belichick.
Boy, by the way, you've done a hell of a job. We've gone 15 minutes.
Yeah. I saved the craziest for last, right? Like, where are you? There's the football aspect. There's the ongoing soap opera. Oh. He's going to be quite literally in Syracuse Friday night, Halloween Friday night. He's going to be here. I can't even imagine the costumes in the dome that night. Like, what do you make of it? I don't know what to make of what's going on there.
I think you have to separate, and this is really hard for all of us. You got to separate off the field and on the field. The off the field is just as wild as anybody could have ever expected, right? The on the field, his press conference, I guess it was day before yesterday or maybe yesterday. Forgive me on that. I watched it last night.
I think it was Tuesday. Yeah. It was very recently, whenever it was. Yeah,
and it was his visit with the media. And you and I have both watched the Foxborough Chronicles of Bill Belichick, right? That press conference the other day in Chapel Hill was almost uplifting if you're a Carolina fan. because he's telling you, man, we've really enjoyed, these guys have gotten better every day. They have done all the right things. They've really bought in. We have no problems. Everybody shows up early. They watch film. They go to school. They did da-da-da-da-da-da. And I mean, I'm thinking, holy cow. They've got players. He's talking about defensive kids that played for his son at Washington who transferred, who are playmakers. Jordan Shipp, and I don't know if you watched the players portion of the press conference. You know, the players talked all about toughness and the ingrained ability to execute properly, don't waste a rep, things like that. It was like Mac Brown never coached there. I mean, Belichick has already started to have that Patriot way kind of factor in a little bit. But one caveat to this, Brian. They're going to have a quarterback situation. Max Johnson, we don't know where he is health-wise. Bill said that the other day there in the presser. They've got the Baker kid, who's a true freshman that everybody's excited about. They got this Gio Lopez kid from South Alabama, who I did South Alabama's bowl game last year. Major Applewhite did not play him in the bowl game because he got so banged up. He's kind of a dual threat guy. And it feels like Lopez is going to be the guy who may get the job if Max Johnson's health will not help him get to the start gate. Look, they've got a friendly schedule. Syracuse on that Halloween night is one of the tougher tasks they have in the schedule. It's going to be really, really interesting. But think about it. Add their game Labor Day night against Josh Hoover and TCU to the ACC rhetoric. I mean, think about it. TCU's not going to be terrible. They didn't have a great year last year for Sonny. But Josh Hoover comes in, a guy who was fairly productive last year in the Big 12. And I think it's going to get really interesting Labor Day night. Carolina and Belichick. Now, you want to waste, you want to flush all the other stuff. The Jordan Hudson stuff and, all the yoga on the beach and all the other jazz going on Sunday morning and CBS and whatnot. Kick TCU's butt on Labor Day night and people will see your team differently.
It's amazing how just one win in week one like that has a way to change.
Hey,
yeah, whatever you want to do. Bill.
I mean,
it's great. Nantucket, wonderful. Do your thing.
And you know what? Hey, let's take it like this. Maybe he had some bad PR in the offseason. Maybe he just bought into some bad PR, Brian. The book tour went a little off the grid, right? Book tour just went kind of off the grid a little bit.
Yeah, people forget when you do a book tour, you talk about things other than the book. That's kind of how it goes. All right, Wes, watching the U.S. Open here. Before I let you go, what's the giant golf course over your shoulder there? What are you rocking on the wall?
Okay, this is an original scorecard that was handed out at Augusta in the mid 1930s. The picture to the left of it is a picture of my dad smoking a cigar, ironically, on a golf course. It's one of my favorite pictures of my dad because he clearly just made double bogey whenever they made the picture. Back here is a couple different golf courses. This is one in North Carolina called Tobacco Road. And the one over here to this side, it's a 9-hole course in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee called Sweetens Cove. And so, yeah, this is kind of what I do in the off season. Think about golf, play golf, try to be good at golf. Boeheim, I hear, is back playing golf, by the way. The Hall of Famers playing golf, in addition to the foundation having a poker event, I hear, coming up at Turning Stone.
It's a Jim Boeheim weekend it involves. If you thought a Jim Boeheim weekend currently involves basketball, no, it's dinner, golf, and poker. It's a very Jim Boeheim weekend.
And again, not to say to you or anybody else who I've become friends with up in that area, or people like that. Hey, Coach, we've been doing stuff for 2 years. Nobody called. Vicky and I would have come on up there, but nobody called. So,
all right, we'll see if we can. I had a flyer. There was a flyer for the event.
Oh, was there really? The event is like in 3 weeks, right? It's the end of June. Is that right?
It's soon. I don't know where we put it. I think. Wait, is this it? Hey, hang on, Wes. I found it.
This will be great. This will be great. My phone will ring within the hour. I feel confident.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is look. It's Wes. It's like a trifold. This is impressive.
Wow.
This is like I'm talking like card stock. This is good stuff.
And what date is it again? Because I don't have it on the calendar for obvious reasons.
June. Yes. Well, mark it down now. June 27th and 28th.
Already booked something. Too late, Coach. Thanks.
All right. Well, you're missing out. Dinner Friday night. The golf's at Atunio at Turning Stone on Saturday. The poker is Saturday at 6. I believe it says until Jim bleeds Wes Durham dry. I think that's what it says.
Yeah. Well, I've already told him I'll never play poker with him. I've already told him that.
Oh no. I wouldn't play poker against him for my life.
No chance.
He's a good poker player. We're not dealing with that.
Well, and that's the thing. I have actually in my mind. I got to figure out how we're going to do this. There are a bunch of retired coaches, Boeheim being one of them, Brian, who plays poker and a lot of it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's one of the ways they still squeeze the juice out of the competitive nature they had for so many years of their lives.
Oh, 100%.
And Paul Johnson at Georgia Tech is one of those guys.
Oh, okay.
So I'm already starting to think, how can I build a Texas Hold'em table for ACC Network and have former coaches play poker?
Yeah, I mean, the ESPN's got the poker technology. They've had the whole cams for 20 years now for going for the World Series.
Right.
So, you can make this happen. Yeah. I have full faith, Wes, that you can make this happen.
Yeah, it's a long-term project. It'll be right behind, something else that we do, coming up. So there you go.
Well, next time you got Boeheim out for lunch before a basketball game next year, you can get him involved in your.
What are we going to do? Where are we going to eat? There we go.
Okay.
And what day is it? 79? 79 on the countdown, huh?
79. Yeah. So I'll probably talk to you again around day 20.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Then we can actually talk some football. All right, Wes. Enjoy the golf this weekend.
Thanks.
Enjoy your summer. We'll catch up again.
Take care, Brian. Be well. Thanks, guys.
There he is, our guy out.